Welcome back to Smart Life. I am Dr. Gina, and it's so good to be with you. Now, my next guest, he really doesn't need any introduction at all. You know him from the movies and television, including Full Metal Jacket and Mail Call on the History Channel. He's also the author of a book called Gunny's Rules. Happen to have it right here in front of me. How to Get Squared Away Like a Marine. And he's here with us today to help us deal with all the scumbags we encounter in our everyday lives. Some know him as R. Lee Ermey. The rest of us, we just know him as the Gunny. Welcome to Smart Life, Gunny.
Hi, Gina. Thanks for having me on board.
Absolutely. Now, we're talking a little bit about bullies today, Gunny, and I just want to ask you, if you had that bully and you were gonna make him a Marine, what do you say to that guy who's used to being a bully all the way through elementary school, all the way through junior high, all the way through high school, and there he is, and you're going to train him to be a Marine? What are you going to say to him, Gunny?
Well, number one, Gina, you have to understand that we have neutered all the young boys in this country.
Well, yeah.
And after the serious neutering of all those young boys, the bullies come out of the woodwork, and the young boys are afraid to stand up to the bullies. And back in the day when I was a kid in the schoolyard, if a bully came up to me and tried to bully me, I'd first of all try to diplomatically talk my way out of the situation. If that didn't work, I'd pop him in the snot locker and drop him on the deck.
Yes.
And I guarantee you the bully would think twice before he came around messing with me again. But we don't now. If a kid defends himself, if a young man stands up for his rights and stands up for himself against the bully, right away he is the villain, and he's the one who gets kicked out of school. It's just not right.
No, it isn't right. And you're so absolutely on target that we've so emasculated boys in our culture, and that is the impetus to a lot of the bullying that goes on in the schools. What do you say to the kid who he's taken this bullying, We even had a call like this from a young woman who has taken the bullying all of her life, and he wants to turn it around. How does he turn it around?
Well, in the Marine Corps, we changed the bully out of his evil ways by leadership and by guidance. I mean, all these young people need is a little proper leadership and guidance, and they won't fall into that bully crack. But in order to get out of it, once you're in it, you're basically there, buddy, because you cannot defend yourself in this society that we have today, because then you become the villain. And what a disgusting situation and shame it is that life has things have turned around that way. I mean, I've always been one that says stand up for yourself, stand up for your rights. And if somebody wants to push you around, push back with equal force and maybe a little bit more. But so a young girl is being bullied at school, what do you tell her to do? I would say get the heck out of that school and go to some other school, because there is no way that she can stand up for herself without being the bad person.
Now, in your book, Gunny's Rules, right here, you talk about major malfunctions. And a lot of people say, you know, hey, the bullies, they have insecurities, Gunny. You have to consider that they have insecurities. There's something that has made them decide to be a bully on the playground and later in the workplace and so on and so forth. What do you have to say about major malfunctions?
Yeah, the problem is the way these bullies become bullies is they come from backwards families and they don't receive proper leadership and guidance. I mean, how many times have you heard a father tell his son, well, if somebody bothers you at school, you should just punch them out? Well, you know, if you don't punch them out, when you get home, I'm going to punch you out. And that's the way that a lot of backwards fathers seem to want to guide their children. They don't provide proper leadership and guidance. Show the kid that he doesn't need to be a bully to get what he wants. He just needs to be smart.
And so there's a lot of tough talk. And I even had one dad say he was debating with his wife, and he wrote the show and said, you know, Dr. Gina, do you think I should say, hey, don't start it, but go ahead and finish it, kind of like what you said, Gunny? And he said, because his mother's afraid that I'm going to turn him into a criminal if I tell him, don't start it, but you finish it. But love is an important component here too, especially as parents when we really are the support system to our
Well,
children. So how do you balance those two things, Gunny?
well, we try to fathers, good mothers and fathers and good families try to balance that relationship and let their kids know that hey, you can defend yourself. But the problem with defending oneself is in this society that we have now, it's leaned over so far in the wrong direction that if you raise a hand to defend yourself, you suddenly become the culprit, and that's a bad situation.
Now, one of
Now,
the
let me
things.
say
Yeah, go ahead.
let me say one more thing,
Sure.
Gina, in this on this subject is, you know, we have raised our kids now where they can't lose. I mean, I had a buddy of mine that he was asked to be the coach of the young girls soccer team. Well, the girls were 8, 9, 10 years old, and so the very first game that the school had was his girls worked hard. I mean, they were out there Saturdays and Sundays after school and just worked really hard to get this down pat so as they could play well. The other team came and his team was up by 3 scores. Now, the principal of the school came over to him and told him to tell his girls to back off a little bit and let the other kids get some
What?
scores. Yes. Now, that as far as I'm concerned, what are we going to do? I mean, why did this girls soccer team even come all the way up here to play? Why didn't we just mail them their trophies? Because that's what it's coming down to these days. We better start teaching our children to stand up for themselves. That's why we have a bunch of losers in this world.
I'm so glad you brought up the girls because today it's estimated that around 40% of the worst bullies are actually females. Females in the workplace, females on the playground, so on and so forth. When it's a guy standing up to a bully who's a girl, and you know this is happening in the military all the time now, Gunny. We've got women on the front lines for crying out loud. How does a guy respond to that?
Well, you know, the biggest problem we're having right now with the military is we can't get the females to pass the physical test.
Yes.
So right away, the first thing that the powers that be want to interject is, well, lower the standards for the girls. Well, the problem is if we do lower standards for the girls, they're going to get into combat and they're going to get people killed, number one. And number two, if we lower the standards for the ladies so that they might pass combat training, well, then the grunts in the field, the Marines, the males out there fighting the war will not have any respect for them. So, you know, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. We need to quit being politically correct and call a spade a spade. That's what we need to do.
Yeah, it's a situation that we've gotten ourselves into. Things sometimes sound so good emotionally, but they don't always work so well functionally, and sadly.
It's all about let's be fair to the girls. They want to go into combat. Well, okay, being fair to the girls is fine, but they should rise to the same standards that the men do. If the men can't do 3 pull-ups, they're sent home.
That's right.
Now,
That's right.
We don't want them in the combat, and we need upper body strength. If you're going to be in combat, first of all, you got 80 pounds of gear you're going to have to carry, and you don't just get dropped off in the combat zone. No, sir, you have to walk all night, 10 hours to get to the combat area with all that gear, and plus you got to carry mortars because the mortarmen can't be expected to carry all these mortars.
We lower those standards, we're really in trouble. Gunny, I'm so
That
sorry
leads
we're
to
at the end of the show, but I loved having you. I love your advice. Buck up, basically, is what he's saying in Gunny's rule. And thanks for being on here with us today, Gunny. Our goal here at Smart Life is to be your personal coach because we know you're way too busy to sit down in some office somewhere. So you join us every day, and there you have it. Hope you enjoyed the show today. We'll be back with you again tomorrow. Don't forget to tune in to Smart Life.